Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all well. Thank you for joining me for the Wednesday evening prayer gathering, where we sort of get together for a group practice. There's a great power in practicing as a group, and it's nice to have a firm time in the middle of the week where we can get together and sort of schedule a moment to sort of anchor our practice. So I'm not hearing myself talk. I wonder where. Perfect. I always listen for the feedback so I'm not just speaking to myself. So let me take a moment and center, and then we'll begin. And okay, just give me one moment. Taking that moment to sort of line up, to catch that breath, to slow down is very important. In some ways, we claim ourselves. We get parts back of ourselves. When we have a lot of movement, when we're not fully grounded, we're not really moving with all of ourselves. There seems to be the part of ourselves that has that momentum, but there's pieces of ourselves that sort of left behind. So I'm fidgeting with this microphone stand. One moment. It's better. We leave parts of ourselves behind, but we make decisions as a whole, not just certain parts of ourselves that are more active, when we're a little more scattered, for less of a better word. But there's parts of ourselves that have deep sanity, parts of ourselves that are grounded, where that movement, that speed, that wind can't affect. So there's parts of our mind, ourselves, our emotions, what we consider to be us, that are more dominant when there's movement. But when we sit down, and calm down and slow down, there are parts of ourselves that kind of come up from deep within. And it slows down that movement, that air energy, that flightiness, the anxiety, the lack of being grounded in one's thoughts, the emotions that arise from that. That tends to subside, go down. Because it's really only a fraction of us. But if we don't bring the whole of us to the equation, that fraction of us sort of decides for everything else. A lot of taking time to practice, to be in quiet, to sit with a candle, even in the once a week, in the middle of the week per se, helps us to reconnect, to anchor, to allow the energy that is very solid within us, very grounded, that earth energy, to resonate, to touch in, to infuse, become a part of all of us, all the wholeness of us. And the air, the movement, the speed, the anxiety, the anger, the rush, the judgment, the everything else somehow goes away and we feel better. It's because it lives in movement. Sanity, S-A-N-T-I-T-Y, I think, S-A-N. S-A-N-I-T-Y. I'm getting anxiety with spelling, not the best speller. The opposite of insanity, craziness. There's a deep sanity and wisdom within us, almost like that 24 karat gold. But it's something that we learn to bring forth. We are used to quick minds, full of emotions, quick decisions, not stopping all day long, go to sleep and maybe the dreams are just as fast, get up too early, run through our day, and we don't even realize that 24 karat of groundedness, of deeper wells of wisdom and sanity, where these quick, flighty emotions go away. And we realize we're not those emotions. We're not that thinking. And we realize we're much more than that. Because we've expanded. And not outwards. We've expanded downwards. And we found sometimes, for the first time in our lives, a certain solidity within ourselves, which allows the temperature within us to go down. We become whole. Yes? So, in a way, within us, we have all the elements. We have earth, we have water, we have air, and we have fire. Right? Fire, heat, anger, right? Air, flightiness, scatteredness. Anxiety has a lot of air energy to it, right? Air fills our lungs. Earth, very grounded, is water. When something's out of balance, it affects our minds and our thoughts. And if it lasts long enough, we think it is us, those qualities. And we're looking to become whole. We are part of one ecosystem, one body that works together, our own body. Yet, especially nowadays, in the 21st century, 20th century, I would say, late 19th century with the Industrial Revolution and all that, we've become less and less complete. We've lost touch of being a whole, WHOLE, whole being. Yes? The balance isn't fully there. So when we take time, it could just be 15, 20, 40 minutes a day, especially most important at the beginning of the path, essential at the beginning of the path, because we learn to ground. We learn to come back to earth, to our seat, where we are seated. And we learn, like one of my instructors from the very beginning said, learning to stay. Stay what? Stay present and stay there where you are. And with that practice, we become present. And in that present, we ground. We move our seat, our presence, wherever we go during the day or in the world. We're anchored. So what may happen around us, we're in that anchor. We're in that still point. And we found that inner alignment, that inner posture. In that wholeness that we are, we're able to engage in the world outside of us. In that wholeness that we discover and are able to live, we're able to engage in the world, anything outside of us, we engage in it in a different way. From wholeness, not just parts of us, aspects of us. And then another aspect of us will be like, oh, I don't know if I did that right. And another one will be like, well, that was correct. And then you're like, no, that really wasn't, that was not quite all there. Because we're not fully coherent. If we think about it. And as we sit in stillness, sometimes we can take a practice where we contemplate and we look at things. We look through our day. That is not the practice of meditation or prayer, mind you. That is something else. I once had someone say to me, "Oh, I meditate too." This is when I was meditating all the time on weekends, when I went out on the beach and everything. I was full on meditating for hours. I loved it. Important and deepened a lot. Had all sorts of practices in my little toolkit, and I was practicing a lot of them. And things were moving fast and absolutely amazing things, and I couldn't get enough. And he goes, "Well, I meditate too." I said, "Oh, really? What do you do?" "Yeah, every morning I contemplate my day and what I'm going to do." I just kind of stared and I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm like, "Oh, that's good." In a way, there is a practice there, but don't get it confused with anything else. But there is a practice at the end of the day where you look back to your day after you've taken a moment and a breather and you look at it and not in judgment, but see how you were as you engaged in various moments. Were you anchored? Were you whole? Or were you triggered? Were you your best self? And if not, what caused you not to be? Not out of judgment, but to begin to understand yourself. How you work, how you act, how you react, where your balances are or imbalances, where your triggers are or are not, where your strengths are and where your strengths are not. And it's not so much a tool like I'm going to improve to do better out there, but rather it's an analysis as to where in our ecosystem of our minds and bodies and energies there's a need of a calibration. It's for that inner work we're doing. And as one practices for a while, and then maybe 6 months later, you look back and saying, has this changed me? How am I different today than I was 6 months ago? And hopefully you'll be like, oh my, wow, look at this. Look how I engage here as opposed to how I used to. Wow, this really helped. Wow, I've transformed this situation. And really, what changed? You became more whole. And aspects of yourselves that were dormant or more passive or not exertive enough came forth. A groundedness, anchored, and something more complete was able to manifest that is very powerful, that has a lot of strength, because it brings forth your entire toolkit. When we still have trauma or whatever we have, pain, anxiety, issues, when we address their effect within our body and how they disturb, because they do disturb, disturbance, like a stone in calm water. You drop a stone and you see the waves go off. After, as a result, the small waves as a result of dropping the stones, that we would say that's a disturbance in the water. Yes? All these parts cause a disturbance within our bodies, within our minds, within our energies, within our chi, whatever you want to call it. And by the practice, we soothe the water, the energy. And there may be parts that continually create that stimulus because it's in our body, it's in our minds, in our thoughts. And as we create a system of grounding and addressing it by creating energies that heal it, energies that can be stronger than that energy of awareness, of blessing, of alignment, of a higher chakra, which one of these days I will discuss, that can be stronger than a lower chakra motivation. Therefore, you're not as affected from more base emotions, more base, oh Lord, impure emotions or actions, more primal. Yes, it recalibrates everything. In a way, when you see masters pray, who've been doing it for most of their lives, they're very still, they don't move, and they don't have a lot of thoughts. They found that groundedness in us, like you see in the movies. And when they walk around or they talk, they're different, visibly. And when you look at what do they have, that's not what others have that are around them, is when they look, you see they really see. They look at you and you feel that all of you is being seen by them because there's so much space there. So, wholeness. In the stillness, we find ourselves. In the stillness, we find our healing. And in the stillness, we find our future. In the stillness, we find ourselves, our true selves. So let's do our practice. So if people want to stretch a little bit, yoga stretching is indispensable. um, so I might be a little more hands-on during this period and give more excuse me, sorry. So I may be a little more hands-on right now with giving indications of what I recommend for things, because what we're doing in a way is physical. So we physically need to do things because we're working with our bodies. And we're working with how the energy flows in our bodies. How the energy flows in our bodies influences our minds, which influences our emotions and our thoughts, which influences our actions. Yes? So we are working with the vehicle that really affects all that we are. And yet, that is what we most neglect or think of the least in our society. We are a society of the neck up, all about our heads. We don't think, how does everything below our necks affect our brains and our mouths and our hands and actions? We don't. There's cultures in the past that have Ayurvedic medicine from India, acupuncture, massage that's beyond feeling good but really work at the issues. Yogas isn't just for looking nice and tight in skimpy little outfits and going to the yoga studio because it's what's in and all that. Or even most of the practices that are taught, because they're really way too fast. It's not just doing the movements to show how flexible you are. The movements in themselves realign the energy flow in the body. Look, I lived in New York City. I don't know if it still is the craze, but back then it was yoga craze. I went to some of the yoga classes way too fast. Like, oh my God. It's meant to go slow so you can hold the pose, so the energy can realign in the body. And so I spoke to a more advanced yoga people and I said, I just get the impression this is just crazy. And she goes, a lot of these postures are great and fine, but they're from one particular school and it's done too fast. So I actually I asked, where's the most authentic form of yoga? And I was given a place. I don't know, I think it was 21st Street between 7th and 8th in an old brownstone. And lo and behold, it was done super slow with forms that I haven't seen before. And what they did is realign parts of the body by holding certain parts of the body in postures. Nothing too uncomfortable and nothing so advanced that you're like, I can't do that. And by doing that, it rearranged the blood flow and how the energy moved and the mind settled. Cardio helps settle the mind. Stretching opens the flow of energy. And so it is really important that we focus on our body. It's everything. When you do mantras, it affects our body. The words, the sounds affect our body. It affects our room, which in turn affects our body. We heal enough in our body, we change the frequency that is the main frequency in our body as we heal and we ground. The resting frequency in our body changes, and we take that into the world as a different starting point, which affects everything we do and how we engage with the world and with other people. Which in turn affects our practice and our mantras. There's less for it to work through. And then you start getting into the wow aspect more. You start experiencing things. You start understanding what the names are and how they can help. But it comes from remembering that we are more than the neck up. It comes from working on our body. And so stretching, any stretching is important. Yes? And it's winter. And I recommended people to go to the gym. Just be careful during winter. There's all these new respiratory viruses out there. I know last year there was 3 or 4, and then the COVID on top. And Lord knows that didn't used to exist back in the day. Before, it was just a flu and a cold. So be careful, right? If you have, just be careful. Maybe wear a mask or whatever, especially if you're older. Just be careful with what it's like out there as you go. We have to maintain our healthy body. And it's December. So I just wanted to say that because, I go off as if it was 20 years ago, and it is not the climate of 20 years ago. So, but it is important. We need to reclaim and take back our body. I don't think we've ever fully thought of our bodies. We might work on looking good, being firm, all that good stuff, nice skin. That's great. But the alignment of our body, the tenseness of our body, the pain in the lower back that we've lived through with years, that we don't ever get fixed. I'm very guilty for that one. Taking salt baths with Epsom salts, soaking in that is so helpful. It relaxes the tension. And if you do a yoga stretching afterwards, carefully because you're more loose, but you'll learn how to do it after doing it a couple times in a safe way, you realize your stretches go deeper, and then you maintain it going forward. And just by doing that, you see when you go about your day, you engage in a different way. And after a week, 2 weeks, 2, 3, 4 months, you'll see your relationship to your body is very different because we've aligned it. An engine that's not in alignment will break down. An engine that's not in alignment will have bad miles per gallon, may not burn all the gas so it comes out the back and the car smells, and the exhaust could burn the gas, and I think that's when cars go black in the back. I don't know, in the smog area. It's just not a good deal. So let's do our practice. We bring back health. We bring back sanity. This isn't just only metaphysical or religious or trying to get these mystical goodies. This is very, very, very practical. How we work day to day in the normal life. How we have a better quality and health in our lives. How we live longer. Okay. So why don't we take a moment and stretch? Now, there's not a lot of time. So you work on the part of the body that you need the most work on, where you have your issue. But since we're all seated down for the most part, then I would suggest you stretch the legs and the inner thighs and calves and things. So when you're seated, you don't have to move as much. But if you ever feel any tightness or pain, you need to move, you move. This is not about holding a position, one form, whether there's pain or not, you push through it. That's not how I was trained. None of my teachers would agree of that. That's a whole other school. Here is about alignment and being comfortable. But at the same time, as you settle your energies, you don't want to be focused and have it drawn to a pain. So it's important to get that stretch in. So let's take a couple minutes and get a nice stretch. Hey, need a little more time, continue. So when we do these practices, um, do what you feel called to. Um, Sometimes it's good to sit in silence, look what's in front of you, follow your breath. It's a form of practice. I think I mentioned it. I gave a very powerful form of it. When was it? August, September, before the High Holy Days. And then I gave another several talks about it in last spring, and then the year before that a few times. Um, on finding this spaciousness. And we just sit in presence and allow the thoughts to go away and things leave us. Energies have the space to leave. Things stay with us because they're compressed. The tension, the holding, the burying of them creates a pressure, so they stay. When we create space, when we stretch, when we pray, when we exercise, it creates space within us. And they naturally start moving in a way, becoming exposed, and then they leave. Why? Because our body naturally doesn't hold on to anything. So the moment we create space and we heal and we improve the flow of energy in our body, these things, these energies, these thoughts start working their way through and out. Because there's nothing in our body that really holds them in. So we have to create the conditions for them to leave. And they just go. And with time, they go, 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 go. And then at some point, regardless of how our day was, they don't stay that long because there's so much space in our body that there's really nothing for them to hold on to and anchor anymore. We become open, clear. There's less weight to us that things we're holding. In that space, there's a deeper form of grounded. Because there's little for things to throw us off our balance. There's little disturbance in the energies, and then our body is able to feel the earth more. Our minds have settled deeper in. Our minds are no longer anchored in our heads. The energy of our mind is anchored in our entire body. Our body is supposed to be our entire body, not just our heads. Our thinking is supposed to be with our entire bodies together. Our gut feeling, our instincts. The tension is not just supposed to be shared in our head, like we think our head's going to explode. It's supposed to be shared with our whole body. So it's less intense. And if we're grounded, it emanates from our bodies as waves. We don't just hold it like a container ready to explode. Do you see? So we're learning to unlock. And we unlock by opening, letting go, relaxing, breathing. Sound familiar? Same thing I've been saying for the last 3 years. But now it's making it very clear. A new sort of aspect of why that's important. The physicality of our machine in which we go through life, which permits us to go through life, and reclaiming it, taking it back, learning it, discovering it. So hopefully everybody's done their stretch. So as always, we do the Shema. It's open to everyone. It's definitely religious, but there's a great blessing. So everyone's welcome to say it, even if they don't fully believe it, because the words and the sounds carry blessing. And if you try to live a good life, you try to do the best you can, and you wish a blessing to help do that, then you're welcome to say it. And here, O Israel, Israel, in this way that it's used, means all those who believe in God. So you're saying, here, all those people, all of us who believe in God, and then you make this proclamation of faith. But it's very, very old. It's in the Torah, and it carries immense blessing. And that's why we start with it. We start with a blessing. It anchors us. And from that space of prayer, we do our practice. Having received that blessing to help us, and also I feel it officially opens the prayer space. It officially prepares the official beginning. Though I would say when you're getting ready to starts the prayer. As you're washing your hands, preparing your prayer space, I would say that's when your prayer begins. When you light your candle is when your prayer begins. But this is when the formal aspect comes. And so feel free to do the practice you wish tonight. A mixture of mantra, all mantra, mantra with a little space in between, mantra with a lot of space in between, where you sit, relax, let go. Not doing something is doing something. It's not empty space. There's a big teaching to that, and there's different ways of perceiving that. But with regard to a meditative space, in context of what I'm saying tonight, leaving space invites deep healing. And there's a lot going on that we're not aware of when we learn to just be open and be and not doing. So a profound practice is to just do that practice. And that's for a whole school, just does that practice. Very powerful, actually. It's what I first learned. And then you could also do the names. And then you could do a mixture of both. Start with the names, have that energy flowing. Then you take a pause and you just look at your prayer space. I would look at the Aleph. Just looking at the Aleph is a prayer. With a soft gaze. For me, it's easy, a soft gaze. I just take off my glasses. And then it's still visible, but it's not fully sharp. Now, for some people, if it's just fuzzy, well, that's not good. You have to put on your glasses. And for those who have a clear eyesight, which I used to have when I started, you just kind of pull your gaze back. You're not focused in like a laser. It's just a soft look, gentle look. You're kind of looking at the whole space around it. It's sort of an open to the entire space of your prayer space. And you rest in that. The Aleph itself has great, great blessing. Anything that's sacred on your shrine has great blessing. The Aleph especially. So by looking at it, you actually are in communion with the divine. I've given a lot of teachings on this. So if people are new, just go into the Aleph last spring, 4 or 5 weekends in a row, in March, I think. So you, just by resting, you are actually in a way doing a mantra by just staring at the symbol of the Aleph. And resting in that space, it recalibrates you. And the space does a lot. And when you see your mind starting to wander and you start thinking about today or how you're fidgety or what you want to do afterwards, your anchor could either be to refocus on what you're looking at, but the mantra possibility is you start doing the name of God again, rekindle that energy of the name. You will find it will reset or center and calm your mind. And then once you've regained that stability, that calm, the thoughts have settled, then you re-go into just sitting and being present in stillness. Being present in stillness learns to discipline the mind. It teaches you to be that rider on the horse that's aligned that I spoke about last Sunday. The mind does not like stillness. For the mind, stillness is a form of dying. Why? Because all the thoughts and movements and anxieties and worries trigger a certain part of ourselves. Oh Lord, I don't know if I want to go there. I've spoken about it a lot, but people who are new are going to find it a little shocking. That's not real. What's really us is beneath that surface, but we don't recognize it because we're all in the surface of that movement and we think that's what we are. No, we're something much greater that's right beneath. And as we calm down and the speed slows down and we embody, EMBODY, we sort of embody, sort of fill into our body or move into our body, become our body, ironically, we settle. And so it's important to have that stillness. Kind of lost the thought a little bit. I hope I wrapped it back around. Okay? So we'll start with the Shema. I'm thinking I touched on it like 2 months ago, and then we did it for a while, and then it disappeared using the word Shalom. Because this is really what we're seeking: peace, calm, alignment, and what comes from it: wisdom, care, integrity, wholeness. Did I say peace? Probably. But that's what where comes from it. So saying the name of God, name I use is Yahweh Shalom, is very powerful. We're infusing a powerful name of God with the word Shalom, which is actually a very powerful word on its own, a very sacred word. And that those tones of what that is fills our body, and things that are not of that vibration leave, because we're becoming that vibration, and things that are not that are not able to be in the same space because they can't latch on anymore. Anxiety and everything else, disturbances, thoughts, energies that are aggressive need the similar energy to bond to in our bodies, the disturbance, the trauma. when we calm that, there's nothing for it to latch onto and it leaves. It's like a full circle. It needs it to be there and it's there, and then it creates the environment for being there, which in turn latches it on to being there. It's a vicious feedback circle. And by infusing calm, peace, and healing, we're healing the body so it's not the right environment for those energies to rest in. And they lose their heat and they leave. They disappear because in us, in our brains, they're not permanent. It may feel solid, but it's not. And when we learn to work with it, they leave. And then we see what was underneath them, what was being covered up by that intensity. And it's shalom, peace, wisdom, intelligence, wisdom. It's very healing. You know, we say Yahweh Rapha, or Adonai Rapha, or Hashem Rapha, or any of the other names of God. Heal us, please heal us. But shalom is also very much healing. We're calling on the peace of God, that energy of God, versus we're asking for divine intervention, and the name itself brings healing, Wafa, Wafa. But when we say the word shalom, we are not asking for an active intervention. We are bringing forth the energy of the word, of God's energy of shalom through our action. We're summoning peace, shalom, from a powerful source. So it's slightly different in the way it goes about it, but it does a lot of the same thing. Everything of the same thing. But it's more in us. One is a prayer, and the other one is a full aspect of a mantra. Because the word and everything contains it all. And so I was thinking today, you know, I kept feeling Rafa wasn't quite hitting the spot a little bit. Thought it was a little off center for what I was going for. And then I thought, well, shalom. It's very self-contained. They'll continue to use Wafa or whatever name or combination of names. You don't have to use a shalom, which is not a name of God. You use what works for you, right? But I wanted to sort of reintroduce in the mix of shalom for your consideration. And that's the name I'll use. And if you feel called, say it along with me, or use the name of God in conjunction with the word shalom that you feel comfortable with. I would suggest you use the name that you mainly use, or if you feel called to, use the name that I use in my practice. And that'll help create a toolkit, another something that you can use when you feel called to expand your use of the different names of God, if that works for you. If not, that's completely fine. So you can do your own pace. I was thinking there's a lot of power when everybody's using the same word. So I was thinking, if everybody's sort of open to it, we all use shalom. Yes, it's a frequency. And use the name of God you feel called to. If you're open to try mine, then use that, and we'll try to stay as much on one frequency. Using the name of God that I use isn't in your, you don't feel that's for you to use. For some people, it's considered to be too sacred to say out loud, and I completely respect that. So you use the name that you feel called to. But if you're open to using the name Yahweh, then please try that with Shalom. That will help unify the energy we're cultivating and help those, especially who are new. And then if you want to say it and then have some space, that's great. Or you want to say it continuously, that's great as well. Or you want to do something completely different, that's fine too. But the extent that you would like to, let's just try to stay on one. Because every name and everything and different words you attached at the end, Shekhinah, Rafa, has a certain different energy. So it's always beautiful when everybody sticks to the same one or close to the same one. And that sort of group practice has a whole integrity to it. It becomes like one. The prayers come together. And sometimes you could really feel it, even, that we may be apart. All right, so we start with the Shema. One second, let me find my glass of water. Right next to me. Okay. So if you need to stretch a little bit, I always seem to lose feeling in my legs when I talk. It's hard for me to get into the posture. Okay. Okay. People have lit their shrines and put up some incense. Give 20 seconds for those who haven't. And when we say the Shema, we normally put your right hand over your, in between your, over your nose with the fingers sort of over your forehead. And you turn inward. It's a prayer that's said inward and not so much as outward. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Yahweh Shalom, 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 Yahweh. So, as you're doing the mantra practice with Shalom, sometimes thoughts can come to you of things that need healing or people who need it, and you just don't even need to think of what it is, because when you think of it, an energy comes up, and you just say the mantra, and that will send the blessing there. As well as when I was just doing it, I felt that energy that I felt was from that situation, it went away. And it wasn't anything that I've experienced, but it's what I saw. And wonder, wow, it cleared it in me, but I also, there's a whole school of thought that it helps clear it over there. And so if something comes up, you just say the mantra through it. Something comes up from your youth or yesterday, or for something that you anticipate for tomorrow or the next week, you just say the mantra. You just say the mantra, and your focus is in the mantra. You don't focus on it. But if you want to focus, call to mind a few people that do need the blessing of the mantra you're doing, you just think of them. You say it, maybe linger on them for a couple seconds, and you move on. If somebody is very ill and you want to dedicate your practice to them, then you focus on them. But with an open practice like tonight, unless you have a special thing you wish to focus on, you focus on the name and Shalom and the generation of that energy, and see if you can feel it in your body. And it's soft. You're just reciting it effortlessly at the speed you wish. And if you're using prayer beads, they're moving at whatever speed they wish to. It doesn't need to be one bead for one mantra. But we get lost in the mantra and its repetition. Something like this. Yahweh Shalom, 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 Yahweh Shalom. just sit in presence and look at your prayer space with an open gaze and rest in presence.
תרצה רוח, קבל רינת עמך סגבנו, טהרנו, טהרנו נורא, וענה בכוח גדולת ימינך תרצה רוח, קבל רינת עמך סגבנו, טהרנו נורא, נא גיבור דורשי ייחודך, כבבת שומרם, ברכם תרם, רחמי צדקתך, תמיד גומלם, חסין קדוש, חסין קדוש, ברוב טובך נהל עדתך, יחיד גאה לעמך פנה, זוכרי קדושתך, שבתנו קבל ושמע צעקתנו, יודע תעלומות, ענה בכוח גדולת ימינך, תרצה רוח, קבל רינות עמך סגבנו, טהרנו, טהרנו נורא, שבתנו קבל ושמע צעקתנו, יודע תעלומות, יודע תעלומות.
ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's been an honor and a beautiful practice. So thank you so much for that. I wish you a wonderful evening and a beautiful and blessed rest of your week. And I look forward to being with you all on Sunday. Good night.